Now, I want to go back into the climate space. There's been a bit of attention on the climate policy in Canberra today, and I'm joined now by the Shadow Resources Minister, Queensland Senator Susan McDonald in Canberra. Thanks for joining us, Susan. First up, the decision out of the party room that the coalition will oppose Labor's 43% target, its climate action bill, but also Peter Dutton saying that you'll take a higher target than 28% to the next election. Well, that's a bit of a no-brainer, isn't it? Because our emissions will probably already have been cut by 28% by the next election.
Yeah, look, if I could just be clear on the first point, is that the real concern is over legislating for this target. I believe it's going to open up a huge case for lawfare. It's already going to be harder for coal and gas projects to get up. And as we know, coal is something that we're in urgent need of. And so by legislating for climate change targets, it is really going to open up a world that we're already seeing in the UK, where we're seeing rail and road projects, airports, all being slowed down or stopped. And that's not a part of the discussion that we want to have here in Australia. So that's our biggest objection, is the legislation.
Yeah, it's a good point, because I know in the past I've railed against proposals to legislate the targets, and think Malcolm Turnbull, when he was Prime Minister, that was the problem with the energy guarantee. He was going to legislate the targets. There's one thing to doff your lid to the UN and promise to meet your targets, but along the way you've got to have other considerations, such as keeping your economy and your people ticking along.
That's exactly right. And we're seeing that now with the review of the gas trigger mechanism. This was something that was introduced, as you know, Chris, by Matt Canavan in 2017. That mechanism has been in place but not been called on, because we've been able to have ministers like Canavan and Pitt have grown up discussions with gas companies about making gas available to the domestic market. But we know that the most important thing we can do is to bring more gas supply onto the market. We know that under Chris Bowen, under this new emissions legislation, it is going to get harder and harder. A Labor-Greens alliance is going to make it difficult with green tape and regulation to get these projects up, and that is the most important thing we can do to help Australians keep gas prices down, to keep electricity prices down, and most importantly, keep jobs right here in Australia.
It's so obvious, and this is what's created our problems. Too much focus on renewables, too little on getting gas into the system, yet Labor's solutions seem to be more of the same. They're going to do the same but somehow get the opposite result. It's insane. Now, one of the good things about that came out of the coalition party room today was the announcement of a review looking at energy options, and you're going to have a serious look at the role nuclear energy could play. I'll get your thoughts on that in a moment, Susan, but first let's have a look at how Chris Bowen, the Energy Minister, Climate Change Minister, how he responded to this in Parliament.
Their answer to rising energy prices is to put more of the most expensive form of energy, nuclear, into the system. That's their answer. That's the Leader of the Opposition's big announcement today, that he supports the most expensive form of energy available, nuclear energy. Well done. Well done.
Well, given what's happening in the rest of the world, and given this is just looking at options, assessing all options, he sounds like a hell of a troglodyte, doesn't he?
What a great way to put it. I mean, this is technology that's very mature. It's been used by our biggest trading partners, the UK, France, Korea, just to name a few. This is technology that's around, it's very efficient, and the beauty of it is that you can use the existing transmission lines that we already have in this country. We know that the introduction of renewables has put enormous pressure on our transmission lines, which need to be upgraded to allow for the introduction of more intermittent power. So it is important that we look at a proper baseload dispatchable power that's going to support Australian families and Australian jobs. The fact that he doesn't understand this is of enormous concern, I think, to all of us. And to have a proper review and informed discussion about the role that nuclear could play in Australians' economy, I think is incredibly important. And if you want to reduce emissions, this is absolutely the way to go.
What chance the coalition will take to the next election a clear plan to actually begin a domestic nuclear energy industry?
Well, we know that ANSTO has had a nuclear research station at Lucas Heights for 60 years. This is a technology that we know and we understand. I was involved in Queensland over 10 years ago when we looked at trying to lift the ban on uranium review and mining. So this is complex. It will involve the states coming along on the journey, but certainly nuclear is a technology that we should have a good look at, and I hope by the time we get to the next election we will have something in place.
Thanks for joining us, Senator. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.